Sweden considers the PKK a terrorist organization, and so does the EU, and so does the United States. My government was elected just a few weeks ago on a mandate to put law and order first. And this includes countering terrorism and terrorist organizations like the PKK. For Sweden, this is a long-term commitment.
Let's bring in Mehmet Çelik, who is the editorial coordinator over at the Daily Sabah and a frequent contributor here at TRT World. Mehmet, help me understand. I listened to the entire press conference, but I didn't actually pick up on what Hassan was saying in terms of this being a watershed moment with the Swedish Prime Minister referring to FETÖ as a terrorist organization. I know that he said that we, as well as Europe, recognize the PKK as a terrorist organization, but you know, one of the main concerns from Turkey when it comes to Sweden is that they're harboring, aiding, abetting various terrorist organizations, not only the PKK, but FETÖ as well as YPG members.
Alican, I'm going to be very frank with you. I didn't quite catch the exact word FETÖ in the Prime Minister's remarks myself. However, how I read this meeting and how I read this visit is as follows. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson has brought his enthusiasm, eagerness, and all his tools to convince Turkey that Sweden is now on par and now understands Turkey's security concerns. And he has put forward all his arguments and all his political skills at this press conference, at this visit, and even earlier in the day, to convince that now Turkey will be supported when it comes to fight against terrorism, be it the YPG, be it PKK, or be it a FETÖ terrorist organization. And I think it was super important that President Erdogan highlighted specifically names of FETÖ terrorists who have who have been hiding basically in Sweden. I think that was important from Turkey's side to highlight that it is not just the PKK and the YPG that Turkey is fighting and requesting cooperation against, but it also FETÖ, which is very present in Sweden. And I think these are some of the key moments in this press conference. However, I think one thing that we need to also understand is that despite all this eagerness, enthusiasm, and political strength from the prime ministers, I think the strength of PKK lobbies in Sweden should be also put into consideration. And his job will not be as easy as we think it is, translating this political rhetoric into action, which Turkey expects to happen from the Swedish side.
My personal interpretation is when they made that announcement that they would be setting up a $1 million fund to actually fight counterterrorism, I think it's likely that those funds would actually use to combat anti-PKK activities. When you were mentioning the FETÖ member that the president specifically underlined, I think that was in response to the Swedish journalist who was asking from the Turkish president some sort of clarification, whether it's 30 members or 73 members. And President Erdogan actually replied by saying, look, the numbers aren't really important, it's the commitment. The feeling that I get after this joint press conference is that both sides are willing to comply, to fully implement this trilateral agreement, and that's what's important.
I think what President Erdogan began his speech with remarks with saying that, this visit opens a new page in our ties. And I think this is important as, the new government is quite different than the previous one. And it's being actually criticized for its stance against these terrorist organizations by the center-left opposition in Sweden. So I think there is positive ground at the moment, and however, Turkey will expect this to translate into concrete steps and translate into action for this relationship to be cemented with, not just goodwill and positive remarks, but also concrete action and in fight against terrorism, which Turkey requests from Sweden in order for Turkey to support its NATO application.
Mehmet Çelik, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for coming on and putting this into perspective for us. Thank you.